Gambia coastline is 80 kilometers long and highly coveted for its diverse fisheries. But with the global rise in demand in fish-related products and fish, came the aqua presence of various fishing actors, including foreign industrial boats and fish meal factory, thereby increasing the risk of overfishing.
There are 3 fish meal and fish oil factories, which are located in Sanyang, Kartong, and Ganjur. These factories transform fish into fish oil, or a powder called fish meal, to feed voracious fish like salmon in the aquaculture industry and farm animals in America, Asia, and in some cases Europe. In 2018, fish meal factories in Gambia produced 1,969 tons of fish meal and 823 tons of fish oil. For perspective, the factories need about 4.5 kilograms of fish to produce a single kilo of fish meal powder. This means that almost 9,000 tons of fish were needed in order to make that fish meal powder. There are various actors involved in Sanyang's fish industry. On the one hand, you have those who seek out fish that live closer to the ocean's surface, known as pelagic fish, which include round and flat sardinellas and bonga fish. That group of actors includes artisanal fishermen who supply fish for small local fish processors and traders using small canoes. Big canoes, called filatorne by the locals, who supply pelagic fish for the fish meal factory to be turned into powder, which will be exported. And industrial boats, mostly foreign. These catch fish that are for the most part exported. On the other hand, industrial boats also capture other types of fish that live on the bottom of the sea, known as demersal fish. That fish, caught both legally and illegally, is for the most part exported. There are artisanal fishermen who also catch demersal fish to supply small fish traders and processors.
The fishing industry is quite important in Gambia, as over 300,000 people, that is about 11% of the population, directly or indirectly rely on it for their livelihood. However, the practice of large canoes, working exclusively with nesting fish meal factory, as well as foreign industrial boats, creates steep competition for local artisanal fishermen. The size of the mesh for the nets of the big canoes are actually quite small, smaller than the one used by local artisanal fishermen. Those nets are able to catch all types of fish, including juvenile fish. Now, catching juvenile fish can be dangerous because it prevents the sea from replenishing itself. It can contribute to the scarcity of fish in the long term. Another issue is that local artisanal fishermen specializing in bigger fish compete with foreign industrial boats. Those boats come closer to the shore than legally authorized and cut the fishing nets of artisanal fishermen, thereby causing them substantial loss. This also has a repercussion on fish traders, fish sellers, fish processors, relying on that supply of fish to feed their business. At first, some members of the community saw the arrival of the fish meal factory as an economic opportunity.
The Council of Elders and the people who were part of the coming of this factory, what they said was they misinformed them, telling them that they will employ over 400 youths in the community. And the expectation was not met.
According to Nessin, the factory has about 10 permanent workers and about 100 temporary workers working daily carrying the fish from the sea to the factory. However, it is unclear how many of those jobs are held by locals. The factory activities also hurt the businesses set up near the beach, targeting tourists.
I know COVID has disturbed all tourism, but we were feeling it before COVID because we start losing guests because of the smell of the smoke that was coming out of the factory. Also, when they pumped their waste in the sea, and the tourists knew about that, and it was smelling like sewage. What's the point of that lodge?
There have been a few incidents of dead fish crowding the beach because fishermen who have not been able to sell excess fish to the fish meal factory dump those fish into the water. Another important consequence of overfishing is the fact that it can create a food security issue for the locals. Local population traditionally rely on small fish like bonga fish and sardinella for the daily protein intake. However, a 25-kilo basket of bonga that used to cost about $16 a few years ago cost about $48 in 2022.
If fish supply is affected, meaning if most of the fish is being exported, that means the fish that could have come to our market will be in short supply. That means the price will go up.
Whatever is out of the factory is it is exported outside. And then the fish is grind powder to go and fish. We don't know what is this used for. But I cannot remember any fish that is even benefiting the community. Anything they have, byproduct is gone outside the country.
Among those who said that they are affected by the fishermen factories are women gardening right behind the factory. According to them, they've seen their harvest diminish since the arrival of the factory, which they attribute to an increase in pests and flies coming to the garden and attracted by the smell of the factory. Amnesty International was enabled to link the increase in pests in the garden with the fishermen factory, but we asked the National Environmental Agency to investigate this issue. When we asked NISM about its corporate social responsibility activities, they said, quote, "The factory always gives back to the community, like renovating the Sanyang Health Center and supply the center with hospital beds. We also give out Ramadan gifts like sugar and rice."
They didn't improve anything here. All they did is destroy, pollute. That's all they've done. Destroy.
We are fixing the road. We have never seen this factory fix that road. We have never seen this factory doing anything for our community, for our youth. Nothing. They are not doing it. Whatever they are giving us is a leftover.
In August 2017, the youth of Sanyang started expressing their dissatisfaction over the fish meal factory before its establishment.
Frustration over the fishmeal factory started with its arrival in 2018, but culminated in 2021 after a local young man was allegedly killed by a fisherman working for the fishmeal factory. That day, violent protests broke out and part of the fishmeal factory was burned. At least 50 people were arrested in the days following the violent protests. Although most of them were released without charge, 19 were initially charged, 14 of whom still have a case pending against them.
Some boys are still going to court. And then the community is expected to pay over $700,000 for legal fee.
We spoke with 2 men who are alleged being forced to sign statements after being interrogated, and 3 other men who are alleged being beaten during their arrest and or during the detention. The authorities must investigate all allegations of torture and other ill treatment pertaining to this case. While some community members would like to see the fishmeal factory be closed, others are hoping for some compromise if the community needs can be met.
The best thing, is for the factory and the community to sit and have discussion regarding the operations of the factory. Maybe they can still operate, but the way they operate is not in line with the law or in line with human rights, as you can see, because they are polluting our sea, they are polluting our air, they are doing a lot of destruction in this community.
Based on our research finding, Amnesty International calls for greater transparency regarding the fishing industry, including making public all fishing agreements with foreign states, making public all environmental impact assessment studies of fishmeal factories, also making public the list of vessels allowed to fish inside the country. We also call for an impartial, thorough, and independent investigation into potential socioeconomic and environmental impacts of the fish manufacturing activities. And if found in breach, the company should provide appropriate remedies, including, for example, compensation for the community, as well as restriction of the fish manufacturing activities. Lastly, more resources should be allocated to the Navy in order to better control the Gambian waters against illegal fishing, including more trained staff, more boats, and more monitoring tools.